Hi and welcome to the Homeopathy Health Show. I'm Atiq Ahmed Bhatti, a fourth generation homeopath with over 25 years of professional experience and practice in this field of healing. The Homeopathy Health Show is the online voice of homeopathy around the world, promoting and raising awareness of this truly unique system of healing, which is suitable for all ages, young and old. Every week I invite guests from the world of homeopathy to come and share their experiences, their work, offer insights, and essentially talk all things homeopathy. Why not visit www.liketreatslike.co.uk and click on the radio and podcast button to listen to the latest episodes. So let's begin today's show here on UK Health Radio, the world's #1 talk health radio. Hi, welcome to another episode of the Homeopathy Health Show here on the UK Health Radio Network. And of course, I'm your host, Atiq Ahmed Bhatti. You know, I did refer last time to myself as your friendly neighborhood homeopath. Geographically speaking, I think that's it's probably not possible, is it? But hey, in spirit, certainly. Now, I'm absolutely delighted to welcome back Robert Field to today's show. And he was actually my guest on episode 89 of the Homeopathy Health Show. And this is a two-part special with Robert, who is from Nevada in the USA, and he is the founder and chancellor of the Resonance School of Homeopathy. For those of you that have not had a chance to listen to episode 89, please do go online to all the podcast platforms and just search for Homeopathy Health Show, and you'll find part 1 of my conversation with Robert there. It was truly inspiring and extremely insightful, and I'm confident that you'll find it very, very motivational indeed. You can also visit my website, www.liketreatslike.co.uk, and you can stream it live from there as well. Now, part 1 of the conversation with Robert was very much about his journey and calling, or should I say calling and journey to homeopathy, which actually saw Robert take a much needed, serious, you can't call it a vacation, but time away with his family, which took him to the other side of the world. And from there, things materialized like destiny is. When it's written, and no matter what you do, things will come into your pathway and your life, and it is what you are meant to be, or what you are meant to do. And certainly this is what we discussed, and how Robert was introduced to homeopathy. So that's part 1, and we're going to have a equally delightful conversation for part 2. So without further ado, Robert Field, thank you, my friend, for joining me again all the way from Nevada in the USA.
Thank you, Atiq. Thank you for asking me back. You know, this is wonderful.
Oh, it's lovely to have you. It's always, and I still can't remember that name. Now, what I mean for the listeners is Robert is looking very glamorous. He has a very nice white beard. I mean, his voice is already legendary. Okay, so wow. But I'm just thinking there's a certain actor that he resembles. But for the life of me, I just can't remember who it is. But hey, I'll post some trailers online, and then maybe you can send in some comments of who he reminds you of. But trust me, it is Robert Field, the one and only. How have you been? How have you been, Robert?
I've been well. I've been really well, and excuse me. Life has been full. That's for sure. But no, I've been well and busy, very busy.
And I know that there's obviously been for those listening in, the sort of late summer was quite challenging for people in the USA and Canada because of the various storms and the hurricanes and tornadoes and so forth. And have you fared well with that? Is everything okay?
Yeah, everything is okay, but we've had some forest fires that have been, wildland fires that have been out of control for a full week and threatening our area immediately. And we've been under an evacuation warning. We didn't have to evacuate, but there were tens of thousands of citizens in Reno who did have to evacuate. We were one of the lucky that didn't. But we could see fire, we could see smoke. I mean,
Mm.
we were like right next door to it, less than a mile away. And so, needless to say, we had many things packed up and ready to go, and living your life with any moment like, okay, we got to get out of here, it's stressful. I'll just say that it's stressful.
You know,
Um,
a lot of folk may say, because they're not in the know, certainly. So an innocent question maybe, if you know, for example, Florida is quite prone, at least twice a year, isn't it, to
mhm.
devastating storms. Why do people remain there? Why don't they move to somewhere safer?
Wow, that's a good question. I know that I believe I live in one of the most beautiful places in the world. We are in a verdant, very green little valley with a lot of water, irrigation water, but water from a stream that goes by. But the hills around us, I mean, there's quite a history of we call it the Mother Lode here, where um, back in the 1850s, 1860s, the whole area used to be forest around us. But they cut down all the trees in their infinite wisdom to uh, to build San Francisco and to build Virginia City in search of gold and silver. And, the environment has changed. But as a result of that, though, we still are prone to wildfires in the West. And in uh, any given year, it dries out here in the summer months and into the fall. And it's not unusual. Um, so we're fairly protected in this valley, but um, we're not immune.
Hmm.
And the areas that burnt weren't in our valley. But when I first discovered this fire, I was outside and I just happened to look to the southwest where the hills, mountains kind of come down you know, where the stream runs through and the main
Hmm.
road runs through, and the smoke was just billowing. It was really frightening, coming right at us. And so immediately I said, "Oh my gosh, we need to be, it's coming our way, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
We need to get out of here." And well, we waited. We loaded up our things and waited to start getting news reports, and we saw that the planes were flying over, but it took them a full week to get this fire under control. And the whole time, uh, people were threatened in the outskirts of the Reno area. Why did they live there? They live there because it's beautiful, and yet they're living in the middle of a forest that could go up in smoke in an instant. And yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I know that I personally wouldn't want to live in a place where hurricanes and things like that could destroy everything, but fire could. And like I say, I think we're fairly protected because we're in a verdant green valley with lots of water, but that's not 100%.
Yeah. Of course.
So, yeah.
Hey, Robert, it's Bert Lancaster.
Burt Lancaster.
Yeah.
Wow. I remember the name, and he was a big actor when I was probably a younger man. Um,
He was one of the good guys.
yeah, okay, good.
Enough said. Enough said.
All right. Yeah.
Now, I wanted to ask you, we spoke about so much last time, and again, I will remind the listeners, do make sure you listen to part one. It's so, so important. But moving on from that, it's what's your sort of your take on the fact that when we look at homeopathic remedies or homeopathic medicines, as they are referred to as well, how the fact that they actually have in themselves a soul, and I don't mean literally a human soul, but they have characteristics. You could say, of course, they're programmed to act a certain way and do certain things. But how beautiful it is. Let's just take, I don't know, an example of a remedy called pulsatilla, let's say, which many people will have heard of. And how interesting it is that the gentleness of pulsatilla can be so closely matched to the gentleness of a patient who needs pulsatilla, right?
Hmm.
Eventually, if you get there, if that's the matching remedy based
Right.
on the totality of symptoms and everything else.
Uh-huh.
But they're living, plants and minerals are living matter, living substances, and it's all part of creation. And there's a spiritual aspect to plants, to minerals, to every single thing. Every single thing is connected, isn't it? How
Yes, it is.
isn't it just I don't even have the words. It's so beautiful and so intelligent. I mean, what a blueprint.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. The way I see it is that there obviously is an intelligence in the universe that is behind all creation. I personally believe in God, and so for me to use the word God is not a foreign concept, and I don't feel it offends anyone. And whether you believe in God or not, it's immaterial to my belief, and it's a way that I explain, at least to myself, and I'll explain to others, that this intelligence has formed matter from non-matter, from a spiritual, non-material world of creation into a world of creation, into a world of matter. And that how matter gets organized is through the vibration of particular particles. We can look at it through the quantum physics type model and say maybe it's the string theory or quantum mechanics or something. But in any case, matter starts to vibrate, and when it vibrates, you can see the effects of this if you take a vibrating plate and put sand on it and change the octave of the note that you're introducing, and it forms different patterns. So this collection of innate intelligence is within all matter, and then we can see representations of that at the gross level, at the level of our quote reality. When this intelligence came together and formed the collection of matter, it infused every one of those collections, no matter what the substance is, into an idea as well as the physical thing itself. And when that idea gets imbued into a living system, and I'm going to use living system because we're operating within our known universe, within the system of uh, physics as we've learned to understand that as human species in this time space continuum that we live in, and we call it earthly life. And yes, the earth, and there's matter, and there's the materialness of matter, and the mineral kingdom, and then there's the animal kingdom, there's the plant kingdom, different ways. But all this matter has come together and formed everything that we could possibly imagine as real on this planet Earth. And this is where we reside. And this intelligence is within all expressions of that matter. So, where I see the most beautiful thing happen is homeopathy is not material. It is truly spiritual. So, what happens when we take the windflower plant that grows on the side of a windswept hill at a higher elevation, is buffeted by the wind, and its collection of matter that holds it together to be that particular plant in that particular environment, living under those particular conditions. And then, we say, well, there's something in that. It has its experience of itself within the physicalness of matter, the collection of living things. And so we take the homeopathic remedy and we harvest the plant, and then we start to use this plant in the process of that dilution and succussion. Well, We get to the place beyond Avogadro's number of dilution and succussion, and there's nothing left of the original substance. So then we would say, aha, this is nothing but a placebo effect. This is not real, and this is all quackery, this whole thing of homeopathy. And I say, well, that could be a true statement for anyone who hasn't seen the effects of how homeopathy really can inspire a person to heal. And that word inspire is a key idea. So we're taking something from the physical and extracting the spiritual essence of it. And in the higher the potency it goes, the farther away from its physical creation it is, then the more it is spiritually revealed of the whole idea behind that particular substance in God's creation. And to me, that is the most marvelous thing I've ever really experienced. I mean, it gives you an insight into what that particular substance is really all about. And then this principle of homeopathy, built on susceptibility as well as the resonance. Resonance is a key word. If we didn't have resonance with that particular substance, then nothing would happen. Just like two tuning forks, if I'm holding the tuning fork in the key of C and you're holding the tuning fork in the key of C, if I bang on mine and yours is in the same vicinity and can resonate with that same sound, then yours starts to vibrate without even touching it, without even banging on it. Wow, I think that same principle is the principle that is active within our spiritual vital force, the immaterial aspect of self and who we are as human beings, and the homeopathic remedy. And when those are in resonance, oh my gosh, magical things happen. The vital force becomes inspired, just like the sand on the vibrating plate that can change shape and patterns, changing the homeopathic remedy and potency when it is in proper attunement with the level of the vital force expression of our dis-ease, then magical things happen. The vital force it's inspired, and then it simply starts to heal. And we heal ourselves. This whole idea is the most fascinating thing I've ever discovered. And wow, what a brilliant system
Yeah.
that our dear founder Hahnemann discovered and wrote so eloquently about, giving us the organon of medicine to be able to truly understand his observations. The organon is nothing more than his observations, and he was a great observer, a true scientist, unlike what science has become in more modern times, especially most recently. Quite disappointing. And he was a real scientist. He looked for answers and observed, what am I seeing? And when he started to understand what he was seeing, he was going, oh my gosh, this is not physical medicine. This is spiritual medicine. This is healing at a level prior to this physical expression of having a body and a mind and emotions and aches and pains and our whole sentientness. So, yeah, it's spiritual, I'll say. And it dovetails right back to what you were saying.
That was very beautifully and eloquently put. And I've got two questions here, or one is an analysis. So many people may not be aware that Dr. Christian Frederick Samuel Hahnemann, who was the founder of homeopathy, was a God-fearing individual. He believed in God, and it was this belief and this faith that led him towards great success. You see, as far as my observation of Dr. Hahnemann's life, it is the patience that was given to him through his faith that made him carry on, regardless of the fact that he was persecuted, he was ridiculed, God knows what names he was called, he was abandoned. Many times it was almost like a refugee status because he moved home over 30 times, I believe. Only when he settled with Melanie in France, in Paris, actually, in France, in his later years, which were not many, did he actually find peace. And despite all those challenges, he still left us with something that today is the second largest system of medicine on this planet. But moving on from that, Robert, I wanted to ask you, you see, if we believe, for the scientists certainly, or anyone interested in homeopathy, if we say that energy cannot be created or destroyed, it can only be transformed or transferred from one form to another, well, then there's absolutely nothing to say that we can't link that back to plants, to flowers, to minerals, to ourselves, to homeopathy, because it's all energy at the end of the day. Okay, maybe different dimensions of energy. We talk about harmonics and frequencies, and you just mentioned quite rightly the tuning fork, but every single thing is connected, is it not?
Absolutely true. I think as humans in our state of current evolution, that the greatest majority of us are, I include myself in this, we're living so far below and beneath our true potential. And I'm not arguing that we should be doing anything any differently, because I believe there's a perfect divine plan for everything. But also included in who we are as human beings, this system that is homeopathy, that Hahnemann, correctly and truthfully, described. And I say truth because I think he operated out of truth. And when something is true, it's true across all dimensions. It's true across all ways of describing it. It's true within any system. If truth is a part of that system, then those particular parts will still be true. And so it follows truth. And this truth is inherent in our whole experience as a human, but we have to find it. We have to search for it. We have to be blessed and with insight to it. And I think that we're all in this together. And if we truly understood the power of creation, that we are as an extension of God and as a co-creator with God, somehow in our limited experiential human form, we think we're separate, but I disagree. And I think that our whole endeavor is to try to come back to oneness, come back to our divine self. I think those enlightened beings that have given us major religions, be it, Jesus or Buddha or Muhammad, or it doesn't matter who, when they received their quote enlightenment or started living out of truth, that they've left us with great followings of people, because it's true. And it doesn't mean that can't be corrupted. It doesn't mean that it can't be changed, especially you put man's ego and all the ways of separation. But we're all searching for the same thing. We all want to come back to oneness. We want to come back to the divinity that reduces or eliminates the separation that we feel between ourselves and our world. And then it leads to me to the next question. Then who's creating this world? And I believe that I am the center of my reality, that no one could replace my reality, and I could never replace another's. And so, therefore, we are all co-creators. We're all creating a reality at the same time, because no one could experience what I experience, and I couldn't experience what anyone else does. And I find that this is like the highest calling, at least for me, to be a homeopath, when I can sit with a client, another being. I'm not trying to merge with them, but I do want to understand them. And in order to understand them, I have to lay my perspective of my world aside, or at least not allow it to be a dominant direction in what the case receiving is about, so that I could be in full empathy, not sympathy, but empathy to understand and feel exactly what another person's feeling. I'm not going to take it on. If I took it on, that would be sympathy. I would have to have probably taken it on due to prior experience and draw into an emotional response. The next thing you know, I'm having my own little worldly experience and not present with my clients. So sympathy is not the place. But empathy, to truly merge and understand as best we can what goes on for another individual, is like the highest form of recognition of that individual. It's like, without prejudice, to be able to merely hear and witness and understand another's reality. Wow, what a incredible thing to experience. And as a homeopath, that's what I feel like. I've been blessed to be able to sit with tens of thousands of people and hear their story and not judge their story, but try to help them through understanding it well, and then finding really good homeopathic remedies based on truly what's asking to be healed. And that's where the discretion and my role as an individual, as me, Robert, starts to play out. But I also believe that there is a model that I use that that explains something that I kind of teach this with my students. I understand it. I live it. I'm drawing a little picture because it's going to help. It's going to help me just say this. Okay, so at the top of this metaphorical pyramid sits God, and then the client. I'm a part of God. The client is a part of God, and this is all a part of God's creation. But the client raises his hand and says, "Hey, I'm not doing too well. I'm looking for a homeopath." I raise my hand and say, "Oh, I'm doing that thing, homeopathy," and so we make our connection. And during the time of case receiving, I'm holding this model in mind, saying with almost like a prayer, but it's more with just simply clean intention to say, okay, tell me everything I need to know so that I can help you. And that opens a channel because I recognize that whether they believe in God or not, that source of creation that's animating them and animating me at the same time is now come together. And we are in now a union. We are in now a connection. And that helps break down the energy of separation. It helps break down the perceptions of separation. It helps break down the potential for all to be simply revealed. And then for me to, as a homeopath, to act from my highest, most self of knowingness and, out of my own way, and recognizing them that, let the same process happen for them to be out of their way so that as they share with me and I share with them, it's happening at the highest level possible. And I think that this simple principle is a principle that I teach it to all my students. And I remind them a lot of this, because if we keep that at the center and forefront of our attention, we're all benefiting, and it's a mutual benefit for everyone. And to me, that's, if we're going to do any endeavor in life, it should be beneficial for all involved, everyone.
Absolutely. That's so inspiring to hear you say that. And something I probably haven't shared with anybody really, because there was no need to, but because we're having this conversation, every single prescription that I prescribe, I always write "God is the healer" on the label.
Absolutely.
Because that's it. There is nothing
That's
else,
it. That is it.
It is
absolutely true.
That,
It is simply that. And that is truth. A true statement can not be dissected. It can't be altered. It can't be changed. And usually happens in the cleanest and most simplest of statement.
Absolutely.
And that is true.
There's something quite interesting I was reading, because you mentioned creation. Somebody was talking about probabilities. They said that the probability of creation as it is today, this is all the universe, everything, every single thing, being based on chance, was like the probability of a tornado going through a town, destroying every single thing in that town. But on the other end, as it disperses, it leaves a brand new jumbo jet, fully functioning, state of the art for it to be able to fly. That was the probability. What do you think of that, eh?
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
I don't think we're ever going to quite see that in terms of probabilities of that, but no, it's all things are possible with God. Come on, you know.
absolutely.
We're lucky to be able to have enlightened beings and those ones that share their stories. I know one of the very first books I ever read was Autobiography of a Yogi by Paramahansa Yogananda. And, you know, he described like so many things that he experienced that were just simply like truly beyond belief. And yet I have no reason to doubt that I don't think he made up stories. I mean, I don't think it was him using his quote just simply his imagination. I think that what he experienced was actually real. And as he shared this, you know, then truly all things are possible. So I think there's a world, an unseen world that we don't connect to very often, that is far mind blowing compared to what we assume is this normal level of reality.
Hmm.
And I think also we get glimpses of that through these homeopathic remedies. And when you give a particular homeopathic remedy, doesn't matter which one it is, and it has the potential, and I see it all the time, to completely transform a person's life. Like
Absolutely.
it seemingly in their healing that they're inspired by will change the course of karma, will change the course of every aspect, will heal things that one might say no one could ever possibly heal from. And it's not just some form of medicine, it is truly spiritual life medicine when it's used at its true potential.
You know, Robert, you're going to agree with this. It's medicine for the soul. Why?
Yes.
Because when we look at the psyche, when we look at the mind, what is that? What's consciousness? It's all medicine for the soul because we know that the true inception, even if you look at embryology and the germ layers and all of that, we know that the psyche is fundamental to how we inherit disease, are
Hmm.
affected by disease, and everything else that comes in between.
I completely agree. Again, truth, a simple statement of truth.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You know, you
yeah.
mentioned truth, and going back to Hahnemann, I was just going to say that if somebody was not truthful, if Hahnemann was not truthful, then you have to be a madman to test toxic substances on yourself for the sake of salvation, well-being of humanity, right?
Oh gosh,
I mean, hey,
totally.
you know,
But you said he was a God-fearing man, and so when you are a God-fearing man, your conscience is only going to allow you to do something that is for the benefit of another
yeah,
or self, but without detriment. Well, obviously, the medicine of the day is to poison people with mercury or give them these substances that could make them really, really sick. And yet, you know, some of them actually did respond well. And you know, he looked at it and said, "Well, why is it?" You
yeah.
know, that's a true scientist to be able to ask the question. And what came out of that was in a certain profile, you know, mercury affects a person in this particular way. And when they're suffering in these particular ways, that's when mercury works. Otherwise, it kills them. And he, in his conscience, God fearing man, saying, what kind of physician am I if I'm killing people? And so the need out of that being a God fearing man to find greater truth, he kept looking, and that's the beauty of Hahnemann. He never stopped looking for truth. He never stopped looking for truth.
He was so needed. He was needed. He was placed here for a reason. I
Oh,
mean,
absolutely.
nobody knew homeopathy. Nobody knew that you could reverse the properties of any substance after serial logarithmic dilutions, and the result would be curative. Nobody knew. He knew because he tested it. He tried it for many,
Yes.
many years. And
Yes.
what did he leave us with? We're looking over 200, what is it, 220 years plus,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
And wow, I mean,
It
we're
still
done,
endures. It still endures.
and
It's
it
still truth.
and it always will do,
Yeah.
because the medicine is pure. There's only goodness, right? When you give somebody homeopathic medicine, you don't wish bad. We're desperate, aren't we? We're
Not just
desperate as
behind the intention, but you're not actually introducing a physical substance. So, if I give you the homeopathic mercury, but you don't need the homeopathic remedy mercury, well, it kind of passes like a shadow in the dark if the intention is correct in giving it.
Mm,
Now, if I'm giving it to you with the intention, I want to help produce symptoms to understand and know what we call the provings, right? Then you're with that intention, it's going to influence how that person experiences it, but they're going to still have their own experience they're going to report to the proving, right? But I think that as homeopaths doing, let me requalify that, trained homeopaths or very good lay homeopaths who have observed, and I'm saying that a lay homeopath could be equally as helpful as a professional homeopath. If their heart and intent has been in the right spot, I've known many lay homeopaths who always do the right thing, seemingly. But if like when I train my students, I don't want them to be afraid to give a remedy.
mm,
I want them to be uh, so sure of that remedy because they've gone through all of the process of finding that place inside of themselves that says, oh no, this is absolutely the right thing to do. It's a conscience thing. And when they are there, we're not doing harm. We're going to be mindful of, we've given the homeopathic remedy, now we're observers. What's happening? What is the vital force now doing in response to it? If it's not the correct remedy, it's not perceived by the vital force directly. It kind of passes like a shadow in the dark. If that remedy was given with the intent to create a proving, then we're probably going to see aspects of that energy starting to express through the person's vital force. So I remind my students all the time that there are good or there are bad prescriptions, and there are wrong prescriptions, and they are completely different. And as homeopath, we do the very best we can. We're looking for simillimum always. We're, doing the very best. And if in the doing of that, our conscience is clean, we've come to it with great knowingness and great intention, this is the best remedy, how could that be a bad prescription?
mm,
It might not work, but that doesn't make it bad. When I say if it didn't work, then it was the wrong prescription, not a bad prescription. What I say is a bad is when it's not given with clarity, it's not given with knowingness, it's not given when a place that at the end of the day and we go to sleep and then we start having second thoughts and we're wrestling with our conscience. Did I do the right thing? Is this the right? That's a bad prescription in my opinion.
mm.
As humans, we do not think in words. We think in images and we feel the image, and then we translate it to words. And if you start tracking this, you'll see that it's absolutely true that we are responding to images in our minds with an emotional response. Something that, does it feel good or not feel good? Does it inspire a bubbling up feeling or not? Or, whatever it is, it isn't just comparative like that. And then we translate it to words and we speak it so that we can share that information with another. But really, everything that we experience is all image. and we experience it with emotion. And that emotion tells us yes or no to it. Like, is it on the positive spectrum? Is it on the negative spectrum?
Mm.
What a system that we've decided to incarnate into that gives us instant feedback. And as creators, the imagination, literally the images that get created in our mind, is the world we live within.
It's amazing, isn't it? Because
Oh, it really is.
it's just the brain is so consciousness is just, I mean, we're not actually going off tangent. This is homeopathy, right? When I talk about to students as well, and generally to people about homeopathy, and they say, "What is homeopathy?" I said, "Wow, where do I possibly even start?" I mean, you're talking about I took a paracetamol or I took a painkiller for my headache, and now you're asking me, is there anything homeopathic? I said, I have to go back so many years, you know, so many to make you understand and appreciate what homeopathy is. But
Yeah.
suffice to say, if that substance matches you, it's going to get rid of your complaints because it will make sure or it will ensure that your force, your vital force that you have inside you is going to rebalance itself and take you to be to that spot of being an individual in health as far as you are concerned at that point in time. It's
Yeah.
just, I mean, it's amazing, isn't it, Robert? Absolutely.
Oh,
Go on for
it
hours and
really
hours.
is. The key word that in for homeopathy that I found is inspiration, to inspire.
Mm,
So that key word in homeopathy is inspire, and the reason I believe that's such a key idea is by definition, to inspire means to affect, guide, or arouse by divine influence. Wow. Is
mm.
that really what's happening? We're affecting, guiding, or arousing by a divine influence to fill with enlivening or exalting emotion. Well, that'd be a good thing to happen for anyone on the path of healing. To stimulate to action, to motivate, and the synonym would then be to encourage. There's another definition, I think it's in the Webster's, that says to animate without touching,
Mm.
without touching it. So this idea that these homeopathic remedies, do something is quite erroneous. They don't do anything. They do only by the sharing of it. And Hahnemann was very clear about that. The primary action and the secondary action. Well, the primary action, you got to take the remedy. So you take the remedy, that's the primary action. The secondary action is what we're most interested. What did the vital force do in response to that homeopathic remedy? And how was it inspired? And once it's inspired, it knows exactly how to heal, what to heal, when to heal. It historically will go through our body and will heal things from the past. It's the most amazing system, and all based in truth, all based in true observation. I'm telling you, I'm equally as inspired by homeopathy today as the day that I realized what this system of medicine was all about.
The beauty, like you've so again eloquently said, is in truth. And homeopathy, it doesn't have an ego. It has nothing to
Right.
prove for, no pun intended, of course, because we talk about homeopathic provings, but it has nothing
Right.
to prove. It is, for want of a better word, I would say it is a humble system of a medicine for humanity with no ego and no want except for being humane for humanity.
Yep. Helping us all live
Absolutely.
a greater truth, our truth, individual truth. Yeah.
Literally, Robert, recently, some very strange things have happened that I never used to experience. Again, something I'm going to share personally, but of course, hey, interesting that I found recently that even by giving just one dose within a minute or a few, people are responding in such a way that even I'm dumbfounded. And I'm thinking, what did I just give them? But then I realized
Oh,
it's got nothing to do with me.
oh, absolutely true. Absolutely
I
true.
think it's brilliant.
This is a phenomena that I didn't. When I started recording the classes, I had so many invitations to go teach in other parts of the world. I just didn't want to do it, and so I said, if I don't want to go there, then I need to bring here to them. And so
Mm.
I started recording classes, and I recorded them with three cameras, right? One on the client, one on myself, and one panning the room to our students. And this one that would pan the room to the students would look at the board because I had a big whiteboard, and I would write down verbatim, like a madman, everything the person was saying, and then come back and I could highlight things that were themes within the case. It was a great method for being able to share this. And the whole time, the camera is one of both cameras is fixed on the client who's sitting in a chair, fixed position. They're not moving around, and they're giving their testimony and telling everything. And I'm writing, and we're discussing. And the instant the name of the homeopathic remedy was mentioned by name only, nobody's giving it. Their countenance changed. They started to respond instantly to the name of the remedy before it was even given.
Absolutely. That's true resonance.
And I've seen that phenomena so many times. And our students would point it out and says, man, when the name of the remedy was, look, everything's different. They already started to heal.
And that's the truth.
It's the truth. Yeah, it's the truth.
What a high note to end this episode, which is part 2 of this 2-part special with you, Robert. As I just said offline, I can talk to you for hours and hours, and I will most certainly be inviting you back for possibly another 2-part, I think, and let's talk some more about this because I think we have so much to share, and well, you certainly have so much to share and empower people with and inspire them to go down the homeopathic route, which is well-being for humanity.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Oh, I totally enjoy this. This is it's I have a captive audience when I'm teaching, so I have my students, so they get to hear me talk like this. But in the greater world, to even approach some of the higher ideals and the things that I believe, most of my clients they aren't really that interested. They really just want to feel better, right? And so I always educate them to the truth about what homeopathy is really about, except to go into greater depth and to explore all the facets that we do. It's like I don't have that many opportunities, and I just love it. I love it. I love homeopathy. It's completely transformed my life.
And it's absolute honor for me to have you on the show, and I'm quite sure that the listeners will find both these episodes, episode 89 and this part 2, fascinating and inspiring and educational. Robert Field, thank you so very much for joining me.
Thank you very much for having me, and I look forward to doing this again.
I do hope you've enjoyed this week's episode of the Homeopathy Health Show. Please do support the show by clicking follow on my socials. Remember, the more exposure the podcast receives, the better for homeopathy around the world. You can find me on Instagram by searching for @like_treatslike, and on both Facebook and TikTok by searching for @like_treatslike. So let's promote the voice of homeopathy on radio and podcast around the world together. Don't forget to visit me online at www.liketreatslike.co.uk and click on the radio and podcast tab. Here you'll be able to see all the guests that have joined me on the show so far, and of course you can stream on demand the latest episode to your mobile, tablet or PC. Until next time, stay safe and take care.